Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Low Life Plays coming back at you with another deck tech for you. This one is for Orvar, the All Form. He's a shapeshifter, and he's here to make copies of whatever you want and be annoying. That's really what he does. He's pretty fun, so let's jump into this. Before I get too far in, I should always like to remind everybody, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, so I can keep tearing these decks apart. So let's go. Alright. So Orvar, he's a changeling for 4, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if it targets one or more other permanents you control, create a token that's a copy of those permanents. So when a spell or ability an opponent controls cause you to discard, create a token that's a copy of target permanent. That's just kind of, it comes up sometimes, but he's here to copy our things. Vesuvian Duplimancy, it's really just a backup Orvar, because Orvar does get targeted. He's a very scary guy. No one wants you making 1,000 Caged Suns, so it's fine. So you have this in here because it just has the same thing where when you cast a spell that targets only a single artifact or creature you control, make a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature, except it's not legendary. Really good. Orvar is fun because we can run our rant package here, which Luck Bobblehead. This is what I'm just trying out. It's pretty fun just because Orvar is going to make a ton of things. So you can just make a billion of these Luck Bobbleheads and then just, trigger this, where you roll X, and it's the number of bobbleheads you control, and then you create a treasure for each. You just make a ton of treasures, and if you roll 6 exactly 7 times, you win the game. So it's just a game win, and if you make a billion of them, it's just one of those like non-deterministic win cons in this deck, where it's like, I have an infinite amount of luck bobbleheads, an infinite amount of mana, I can roll this at this amount of times, and eventually, like statistically, I will get 6 exactly 7 times. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Pretty cool. Soul Ring, classic. You make a bunch of Soul Rings, really good. Sapphire Medallion, one of the key pieces that we want. We have a lot of buyback instants and sorceries that we're trying to interact with, so we want to have probably at least 2 to 3 of these when we copy them. So we want to just copy Sapphire Medallion, and we have tutors, which we'll get into to get Sapphire Medallion. Mind Stone, Commander Sphere, it's a little bit slower. Typically I would like more 2-mana rocks, but this one's in here because when you're copying a bunch of Commander Spheres, you can then their card draw on the board. So then if you really need more gas, you can just in the early game just copy some Commander Spheres and then just draw off your Commander Spheres. Felwar Stone. Peregrine Drake, it's definitely leaning into the high power, so if we just copy this with a buyback spell, you can just copy it infinitely as long as your buyback is costing less than the amount of mana. So if you're tapping 5 lands, pretty easy. Pretty easy stuff. None of our buybacks should cost that much. So this is an infinite way to get a bunch of Peregrine Drakes out and then just go from there. You can also make a lot of infinite mana through that combination, which we can use to then copy infinite Lightning Greaves, give all of our little dragons, our Drakes haste, and then kill people that way. Solemn and Scampering Surveyor. I might swap Scampering for like another rock or something, but I really like copying them and just ramping out my lands. Can be really nice. Solemn especially because when they die you draw more cards. Really good. Winter Moon is here to slow down other players. We're mono blue, right? So if we're playing a mono deck, let's punish people who are playing more than one color. Winter Moon can do that. Doesn't really hurt us. Same reason we're running back to basics. And nothing is worse than when you have Orvar out and you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to keep... I have a bunch of back to basics. So unless you have like Austere Command or a Mass Enchant Wipe or a Farewell, you're gonna be really out of luck trying to get out of this back to basics situation we have developed. Same thing with Propaganda. Yeah, good luck paying like 100 mana a creature when we copy a bunch of these. We do run a few counters, not a ton. I run Fierce Guardianship just because it's, Orvar. Typically, you don't want to run Orvar out until you have protection or some sort of counter or some sort of targeting spell in addition to Orvar's cost. So you want to ramp out a little bit before and then cast Orvar and at least have the ability to maybe copy a Soul Ring or copy something that will make it easier to get Orvar back. But Fierce Guardianship is in here just because to protect Orvar. Same reason Counterspell. I had more interaction here, but I think in this deck, we just need to be the problem that needs to be dealt with and need to stop having the solutions to all the problems that are out there. So that's the consensus I've come to. So we do have a Psych Rift. If things get too crazy, we can Psych Rift out. We have Tishana's Tidebender. This is one I'm testing. This one seems pretty good in this deck specifically. So we can flash it out and we can Stifle. So you can, when it ETBs, you counter up to one target activated or triggered ability And if an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, it loses them until it leaves play. So if you have Orvar in this out, you can just use your targeting spells to counter triggered abilities now, which can be really good. Vedalken Aethermage, this is here for a few different things, very flexible. It has flash, and it can pop in and bounce Orvar to our hand, because Orvar is a changeling, so it is a sliver. So you can bounce Orvar to your hand if you need to dodge some removal, only costs 2. Or it can wizard cycle and go get one of our wizards, like our Tidebender. That's a wizard. If we are noticing that there's going to be something coming up, or an activated ability that's going to be a really big problem, we can go get that and then have an answer. Lightning Greaves. Typically, you're just going to throw this on Orvar, so he's safe, but it's also in here to just duplicate it a bunch and put it on a creature, and it's a win con in its own right if you get to those situations. Archaeomancer, get back our targeting spells. We can target Archaeomancer with a copy, make another copy, just you really can make a big train going, draw a lot of cards that way. Spellseeker, very classic tutor, get an instant or sorcery with converted mana cost 2 or less, just put it in your hand. You get to reveal it too, so you get to show people what you're doing. Tribute Mage, this is in here. We only have 2 artifacts that we're going to really focus on getting. It's either going to be Sapphire Medallion or Lightning Greaves. Most of the time, you're probably going to go get Sapphire Medallion, but it is nice to just go have your Greaves if you need them, or if you think you really need to protect Orvar that much right there. It's just a good way to go get it. Merchant Scroll, go get one of our key buyback pieces, and then, play it from there. Windfall, we don't really care too much about our hand most times. It's just a bunch of targeting spells. So we are cool with messing up our hand to mess up other people's. So Windfall is often just a good card for us to draw cards because we're going to be using a lot of ours. Mulldrifter, really good card here because just when you duplicate Mulldrifter, you just draw more cards. Archmage Emeritus, this one you do have to be a little bit careful on because you want to have it out, and I typically will copy one of them, but it's hard to kill him. So sometimes if you get into a certain situation where you're casting a lot of buyback spells, you want to be very careful because this is not a may draw. It's you draw a card. So sometimes it's even better just to have one Archmage Emeritus out. This is a way where we can control the board, also draw cards, make flyers. This is a very flexible piece to copy. So when you're targeting it, you can bounce another non-land permanent. So that this is a way we can bounce our Archmage if we do get into a situation where we are drawing too many cards. Agent of Treachery, this is one of our win conditions here. It's a dirty one, but most times if you play it and you show what you can do, you'll just win, because what you're going to do is it's target permanent. So really what you're going to do is you're just going to copy Agent of Treachery and just keep taking whatever is making your opponents able to do what they're doing. You steal it, and then once you can start copying a lot more, take their lands and then make them give up. Mechanized Production. This is one I personally didn't think of to put in here, but I've seen it in some other Orvar lists, and I've also played against it in an Orvar list, and it's done some pretty good work, just because on your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of Enchanted Artifact, and then if you have 8 or more of that artifact, you win the game. Seems pretty good, because you can just copy Mechanized Production. It's a permanent. You target it, you just copy it. That's pretty good. Or you just start copying the artifact, and then boom, you win. It's really good. Gilded Lotus, it's in here, just copying it is really strong. Venser, win condition. He's a straight up win condition if you can just copy Venser enough. Like if you have a provable way to just infinitely copy Venser, no one can cast spells, you bounce all their lands. That's all you need to do. You bounce all their stuff. And then you're like, all right, well I have buyback and enough mana to just continuously do this. And then you make a ton of Vensers, and then everyone will die when it gets back to your turn. Caged Sun. This is one of the slower ways. It's just here to, just to get it out there. You just play Caged Sun, you copy Caged Sun. It really helps ramp your mana incredibly fast. Just when you have 6 Caged Suns and each of your islands is tapping for a ton, it's pretty cool. Coveted Jewel. This can definitely help us out a lot by copying it to have access to more blue mana, and then also just to draw more cards can be nice. And also if we made a ton and we weren't able to kill somebody, if they even attack us, they could deck themselves depending on how many Coveted Jewels we made. Capsize is a really good one to combine with Coveted Jewels. So if we're copying a bunch of things and we have cost reductions, specifically like our Sapphire Medallion, and we run Capsize, and then we're able to, because our cost reduction does affect buyback. So if we have 4 Sapphire Medallions and we're playing Capsize on our Coveted Jewel, then there we go. Right, so you're targeting it, making a copy, you can target it, and then just lets you draw. Really good. And then here's some more of our targeting spells. So we're running Chilling Trap. We do own a wizard. Orvar is he's a shapeshifter. He's a changeling. He's whatever we want. These are what we want when we're looking at new sets or when we're looking at any cards. We want instant speed, ideally, but we want something that can target the most things for the cheapest cost, and ideally we would love it if you draw a card when you target. So this is really strong. This one, Twiddle, is great just because it targets anything. You know, tap, land, artifact, creature. That's really, really useful. Same thing with Innervate. This one allows us to artifact, creature, land, so it gives us a lot of flexibility here. It's really good in the early game to be copying islands, just ramping us up, so when we do get to one of those conditions, we're really good and we're in a good state to then copy. You know, every turn we can make a few of these big things and then just keep escalating and snowballing. But this one's good because it lets us draw cards too. Mind Games. This is one of our more powerful ones because of its buyback, right? So its buyback is 2 and a blue, but if we reduce it, it can cost as little as 2 blue mana to copy whatever we want. It's target artifact, creature, or land. Those are the things we want to copy. Essence Flux. This is here as not only a targeting thing, but it can also dodge removal for Orvar, so we can play it in response. Orvar doesn't make a copy of himself, but, you know, it's whatever. We just blink him out. But it also allows us to do it to another creature. So that's nice. Thermal Flux. This one's really good just because it has target snow permanent, but it's a targeting effect, and it allows us to target any permanent. So it allows us to... This is a very flexible one that also lets us draw. Shimmering Mirage. This is only a land one, but it does let us draw a card. So that's pretty good, and we do want to be targeting our lands a lot anyway. Planar Incision. Same thing. Exile target artifact or creature. Helps dodge removal. Ghostly Flicker. I like Ghostly Flicker because this one is just so flexible. With lands, artifacts, creatures, it can blink things. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Dream's Grip. This can really help us to control things in terms of other creatures, but it can also let us tap target permanent. The tapping a permanent rule is the best thing we want. So this can just let us copy whatever we want. Twisted Image. Really useful. You know, switching power and toughness can be pretty cool. And drawing a card is what we look for. Mizium Skin. So this one has Overload, which is cool. But the big thing here is it gives a creature hexproof. You know who needs hexproof? Orvar does. So we can target him, or if we don't need anything, we can target one of our value pieces and copy it. Dizzy Spell. This is in here because it is a tutor, right? It is a targeting spell for a creature, which is great. But in reality, what we're going to do is we're going to transmute for a 1-cost card, which we'll get to here at the end. Mind Games is one, so if that's one you want, that's probably our second best. Our biggest best is Whim of Volrath, which is in here. Ultra Reality, this is just this is another permanent one, but it has flashback, so it allows us to play it from the graveyard, which is super, super good. Aquatex Will, this is just a land one, but it does let us draw a card if we control a merfolk, which we do. Giga Drowse, you can replicate, you can tap target permanents, just good stuff. Draw a card, target creature. So it targets a creature for 1. It is sorcery, but it lets us draw. Fleeting Distraction, instant speed, draw. Shadow Rift, instant speed, draw. Really, really good. Take the Fall, instant speed, draw. Because we do have an outlaw. Orvar, really good. This is a newer one. See, just keeping an eye out for these cheap instant spells that lets us target and draw. March of Swirling Mist, this one's really good just because it helps protect us, right? It can protect us. It can also take other things out. So you can phase other creatures out if you're going to need to dodge a wipe or dodge a swing at you with something crazy. You can phase that out. You can also phase Orvar out. So that way he's safe not just on your turn, but he's safe until he phases back in on your turn. And here's our big bad boy himself, Whim of Volrath. This card is old, but essentially what it does is for 1 blue mana, we are changing the text of target permanent and replacing all instants of one color with another land type. But really all we care about is that it can target a permanent with buyback 2. So if we have 2 Sapphire Medallions out, it's a 1 blue mana, target anything, copy whatever you want, and you just do it at instant speed. So if you have anything that can make more than 1 blue mana, you can make infinite mana. Like the flower we showed earlier, or like a Coveted Jewel, or any of those effects, or even when we have a Caged Sun. That makes our lands tap for 2 blue. So then for 1, we can copy an untapped island and then just create infinite blue mana that way. So really, really powerful card. Same thing works, just a little bit like a little bit less smoothly if you do it with the 2 blue cost buyback spell. You just have to have another Cage Sun, or you have to make more than that mana. But still very easy for us to do. Almost as easy as Whim of Volrath. So I'm running Cerulean Wisps. It's in here just because it's an instant target draw. Slip Out the Back is very useful for us to dodge removal with Orvar, or target something we need, or remove something for a turn. Leap, instant speed draw. Instant speed draw. It does cost 3, which is not good, but I haven't found something that can replace Twitch yet. Glamour Die, really good, can target anything. Its instant speed has Retrace, so you can just pay its cost and discard a land, so it has a version of a recursion effect from our graveyard, so it lets us have some flexibility there. Dive Down, excellent protection for Orvar, giving him Hexproof. Clock Spinning, it's a buyback for 1 blue, so this one you just need to have a little bit more of those Sapphire Medallion effects, but if you have those, this can be just as good as our Whim of Volrath. So, really, really love it. Now we get into our lands. Right, so for lands, we're running Mystic Sanctuary because of its ability to, 1, when we have 3 or more islands, it can come in untapped, and then we can target it with a Clock Spinning, and then go get back more spells and put them on top of our library, so it can help recur spells that we might want, or targeting spells that we could really need to kind of get the game moving along and get the engine to kill the table. Mystic Sanctuary is good. Cephalid Coliseum, same thing. It's very, very good. It does do damage to you, but whatever. You can sack it to draw cards. That's why we like it. Command Beacon, Orvar is going to be a target. It's nice to have a Command Beacon out. And one thing that's cool about Command Beacon is you can copy it. It's not as valuable as an island or something that can produce blue, but it is good to just have a few Command Beacons. When he gets destroyed, you just sack your Command Beacons and put him into your hand, and now he costs 4. Really good. Cloud Post, we can just make a ton of Cloud Posts. They do come in tapped, so it's not the fastest way to get a ton of mana, but it is really easy if it's on someone else's end step, and you just go, alright, I'm going to copy, especially in the early game, you're like, alright, I have enough to pay for 2 copies of a card, I'm going to copy my Cloud Post twice. Then you untap with a lot more colorless mana to pay into that buyback if you don't have a Sapphire Medallion reduction effect. Really, really good. Glimmer Post, it's for life gain. You know, this is the way that we could just gain however much life we choose when you get into a situation where you can just continuously copy things. So it'll just enter play and you can just boop, just copy a ton of things. There you go. Really, really good. Swarmyard, he is all these things. So this land is essentially regenerate Orvar. Protects him from removal that way. You could copy some Swarmyards, have 2 or 3, just set them aside. Like, alright, you're going to target Orvar? Protected. Protected. It's really good. War Room, it's just pay 3, tap, and pay a life, draw a card. Seems good to me. This card is a new one from Modern Horizons 3, and it is, in my opinion, very good in Orvar, right? Because like ETBs and you phase a creature out. Up to 1 target creature phases out. That's not just ours. We could phase out whole boards of creatures if we needed to for some reason. I don't know what I mean. But it's also instant speed. Because all we have to do is target this with Orvar out, and we can save Orvar. Or we can target maybe someone has a combo piece out, like a Blood Artist effect, or some other sort of like crazy creature-based thing that's going to kill us. Well, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to, if you have it in your hand, you can pay 4 and instant speed put Talon Gates down and phase it out. Or you can use one of your instant speed land targeting, target Talons, ramps you up, and can phase your whatever threat it was right out of the game. So good. And then the rest we're running is just islands. So I like this art for islands. So I went with it. This is just what we're going to be doing. You know, as you can see, we just have a billion islands. Just so many islands. And then when I do play my Orvar deck, I also have a stack of islands that I keep to the side. Just because when you're copying islands, it's really easy to just have a different art style, like a basic like this, and just have the basics set aside in a different stack to show. You know, if you're, especially in the beginning when you're only copying like maybe 1 or 2, and then when you can just copy as many as you want, then typically it's just like I have infinite islands, or I make a billion islands if someone wants to give you a number, and then you just die to one of those acidic soil effects. But that hardly ever happens, and if it did, cool. Either way, that will wrap it up here for Orvar, the All-Form. I've had great times playing him. He's definitely stronger on the end, so just make sure your table's okay with that, because once he gets going, he's pretty difficult to interact with, and he does run cards like Back to Basics or Winter Orb, things that are going to slow down people who aren't playing one color. So just making sure that you're at that kind of a level, or that the game is expected to have cards like that be possible, and you'll have a good time. It's fun to copy a bunch of coveted jewels, draw your deck in a weird way, and then win through some stupid card like Mechanical Production. I guess it's just fun. It's a good time. So either way, that will wrap it up for Orvar. He's our favorite hamster, squid, oof, brushwag, goif deck. He's whatever you want. He's whatever you want and whatever you need. But that is what Orvar does for us. And if you like this video, just please remember to like it, comment, subscribe if you liked it that much, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!